Chapter 4 is the first chapter in a series of several chapters involving triangles. In Chapter 4, we'll be spending most of our time on congruent triangles, and then move on from there into chapters 5, 6, and 7. Section 1 is specifically on just triangles and introducing you to what a triangle is. So we need to think about a triangle. Okay, so I'll just draw a triangle here. Okay. Just a regular old triangle. Okay, so it's very important to understand the parts of a triangle. So parts of a triangle. And to stand for triangle, we use the symbol triangle. Okay, parts of a triangle. So there are going to be three is the key number, right? 3. So there are 3 sides. So number 1, I'll use red. There are 3 sides. Okay, so why don't I give this triangle some letters A, B, and C. So first off, we would call this triangle ABC. Okay, that's how you would talk about it. The 3 sides of this triangle would be segments. So we have segment AB, segment BC, and segment AC. Okay, so those are the 3 sides. The second part are the 3 angles. Most of the time we can just use the single letter to stand for the angle. So we have angle A, angle B, and angle C. And those 3 angles happen at what we call the 3 vertices. Vertex is the singular. Okay, make that clear. Vertex is the singular, but vertices is the plural. And they're the points, A, B, and C. So notice that you name the triangle by its vertices, right? So these 3 letters, okay? And you go in clockwise or counterclockwise fashion. So A, B, C, or A, C, B, okay? Doesn't matter. Okay, so let's talk about how we classify. We're going to classify triangles 2 ways, by their sides and by their angles. So classifying triangles. And the first way we'll do it is by the sides. Okay, by the sides. So first, if you have a triangle, I use this orange. Okay, looks like a very perfect triangle, and those markings are there, which means that those 3 sides are congruent. Okay, so we have 3 congruent sides. If you have 3 congruent sides, then this is called an equilateral triangle. So 3 congruent sides means equilateral. Now, let's go down the list. Next. Okay. What if we have only 2 congruent sides? 2 congruent sides. Well, if you only have 2 congruent sides, this one is called isosceles. Isosceles. Okay? It's an isosceles triangle. Now, some books will throw this word, the words at least, in front of the 2 sides. At least 2 congruent sides. Because technically, an equilateral triangle is also an isosceles triangle. So we can kind of make that connection. An equilateral is also an isosceles triangle because it has at least 2 sides. It's just more special because it has 3 congruent sides. And then lastly, what if you have, okay, you have no congruent sides. No congruent sides. Well, then this word is called scalene. Okay, so here's how we classify a triangle by sides: equilateral, isosceles, or scalene. Now, what about angles? Okay, here's the second way to do. We can classify by the angles. Okay, so the first one, 3 congruent angles. 3 congruent angles. If your triangle has 3 congruent angles, 3 congruent angles, then you are called equiangular. Sorry, equiangular. Very similar to equilateral, right? Equiangular, but you're talking about the angles, so it's angular. Equiangular. 3 congruent angles. If you have a triangle, not necessarily equiangular, but you know that all 3 angles are acute. 3 acute angles. And hopefully we know acute means less than 90, right? So less than 90 degrees, right? If you have 3 acute angles, then it's called an acute triangle. If you have one obtuse angle, one obtuse angle, and hopefully we know that that would be the obtuse angle, right? Obtuse means greater than 90, less than 180 of course, but greater than 90, then you are an obtuse triangle. And last but certainly not least, very important, if you have one right angle. So that angle is right. If you have one right angle, then you're called a right triangle. Okay, so equiangular, acute, obtuse, and right. Alright, so there are the ways to classify a triangle by sides and by angle. It is important to make the connection that an equiangular triangle is also acute. Okay, so if you want to draw this from here to here, it's also acute. It's just more specific. It's equiangular. Okay, next we're going to talk about an isosceles and a right triangle, and again just a normal triangle. More parts. Okay, so more parts of triangles. Okay, so let's just start with a normal triangle. Okay, how about I make an obtuse triangle? Okay, and we'll call it ABC. Okay, so there's this idea of adjacent sides. Okay, so we have adjacent sides. And the big thing with adjacent sides is that they have to share a vertex. Okay, so we would say that AB and AC are adjacent sides. We would say that BA and BC are adjacent sides. We would say that CA and CB are adjacent sides because they touch. They share a vertex. A, B, and AC share A. They're adjacent. Next to each other. Next to, right? Next. Next to. Okay? Now, what about opposite sides? Angles have opposite sides. Angles have opposite sides. Okay? Angles do. So if we look at angle A, the side opposite of angle A is the one across from it. So BC is opposite angle A. Okay? If we look at angle B, AC is opposite angle B. And if we look at angle C, AB is opposite angle C. Okay? So there are some important parts, and this will also be very helpful when we get into trigonometry later, knowing adjacent sides and opposite sides. Okay? All right, in a right triangle. So if I have a right triangle, let's call it A, B, and let's let C be the right angle. Okay? There are ways to classify the sides of the right triangle. Okay? AC and BC are called legs. Okay? And notice they are the two sides that make the right angle. Okay, so legs make the right angle. Okay, so AC and BC are the legs. Now the last side is AB. AB is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse, okay? And we say it's across from the right angle. It's opposite the right angle. It's opposite the right angle. Okay? So AC and BC make the right angle. The hypotenuse AB is opposite the right angle. In an isosceles triangle, so let's draw a sideways one. So these will be my two congruent sides. We'll call it A, B, C. The congruent sides are called legs. Okay, so in this picture, right, the congruent sides would be AB and BC are legs. And it's because they are the congruent sides. Okay, the base is the third side. So we would call AC the base. AC is the base, and it's just the third side. Okay. So there are the parts of those triangles. So very important that we understand the parts of a right and isosceles triangle. Okay, that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to have to split section 4.1 into 2 videos. So there is going to be a total of 3 videos that you need to watch and comment on. 3 videos. Okay, stay tuned.